Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of this show. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, maybe watching on YouTube, you are listening to The Daily Thread. Okay, last episode of the week. We made it. We inched our way here.
It was an exciting week. It was a jam-packed week full of news.
Yeah.
I wanted to point out a couple of things before we start. First of all, yesterday was Yud Shvat, and besides your birthday, very auspicious day, as we discussed. It's also the day that the Lubavitcher Rebbe assumed his leadership of the Chabad movement until its passing in 1994. Okay. Anyway, so I mischaracterized his first mimer, Basi Lugani. Okay?
Ooh, I guess you got feedback.
No, I don't know. Did you? I oversimplified it. I wanted to keep it simple. But I just want to say that it was. I'm not gonna go into the depth of it, but It was just a mimer that is that the message was to transform the falseness, the falsity of the world, the sheker of the world, and turn it into a godly environment, a kedushitic environment, and that and what the Rebbe was communicating is that in order to achieve that level, you need a Rebbe. You need a Rebbe in order to channel that kind of elevation and progress that a person has to make in terms of fulfilling the objective of creation. That's basically it. So I wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Now that we got that out of the way.
So listen, the New York Times, by the way, I don't read the New York Times anymore, but I have to tell you
speaking to the mic, you're speaking
they have columns of corrections every single day.
Corrections,
And the stuff that's on the front page that's wrong, they have a correction on page 67, saying yesterday's headline on the front page, we said that, John Smith was really Paul Smith who died, but it was John Smith. We're sorry, okay? And they go on with that. Anyway, what did you want to discuss? I wanted to say one more thing.
Go for it.
Okay. We talk about terror attacks here. We talked about Neve Yaakov. And we talked about the next day, the shooting in the Ir David.
Yeah.
Yesterday, remember last year there was a axe attack in Elad, where 3 people were axed to death.
Yes.
And a fourth was badly injured. A security guard at the park where this took place. This took place at a park where people were with their kids, and 3 people unfortunately died. I don't know if it was a year ago. It might have been less than a year ago.
Okay.
But I have to look it up to see when it was. But I'm not going to do that now. But yesterday, the 75-year-old security guard died yesterday from his injuries. So it's months later. The attack, which everybody was outraged over, faded into history, except, of course, for the people that it affected directly and intimately. But yesterday, there was another victim of terror, the 75-year-old man who passed away from his injuries in this crazy, crazed axe attack.
Terrible.
In Elad. And what can I tell you? We're tomorrow night will be a week since Neve Yaakov. Look how we're built psychologically. How we're able to absorb this information.
We're also here, and I imagine the community members of Neve Yaakov are still, unable to really move forward. We're a little bit removed. We're 6,000 miles away, and although they're members of our larger family that were killed, it doesn't hit home as closely as probably something that would happen, and that could be a chesaron in us. I don't know.
Well, but it's, interestingly enough, and probably properly so, Israeli leaders in situations like this, they couch it in terms of what it means to sacrifice for the growth and the strength and the security of the state of Israel.
Interesting.
And they couch it in those terms. These people were sacrificed, and whatever is going to be built in their memory in the future, in the Yaakov, of course, the newspapers didn't forget to say that the Yaakov is in East Jerusalem and it's occupied Palestinian territory, blah, 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 as they try to move in the direction of saying that it was, something that was provoked by the Jews, by the Israelis. They didn't say that, but I'm sure someone said it somewhere. But that's the direction they tried to move the whole narrative of the story in. And by the way, last night, last night there was a rocket fired from Gaza. Into
Israel, I saw that there
into Sderot. Of course, it was intercepted by Iron Dome. Okay, well, you ever see an Iron Dome?
Not in person. I've seen the videos of it.
A couple of years ago, I was taken to an Iron Dome installation near Ashkelon, which is not that far from the Gaza border, and it looks.
Remember once we were in Sderot from a bar mitzvah, and and the rocket landed not too far away.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really see the rocket land. We
heard it.
We saw a troop coming out of Gaza, if you remember correctly.
Right. Yeah.
We rode this guy with this guy on the food truck, and it was if it was a Hollywood set, it would have looked the same, but it was real.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah.
We saw soldiers coming out of Gaza after whatever it was, a 36-hour mission, to root out some terrorists, and what was that click? And and they were rooting out terrorists, and they came out and they were starved for sleep and starved for food. Interestingly enough,
we gave them food. We didn't give them sleep.
We gave them food, and I remember there was a soldier off in the periphery that took his towels and filling on, and put his towels and filling on.
I think the most amazing thing is I vividly remember them saying that they eliminated something like 7 or 8 terrorists.
Yeah.
And you see them hugging each other because they realized that none of their own people were hurt or killed. And they were.
The public security minister said last night, in retaliation for the rocket fire, Israel bombed 2 storage places where they keep, allegedly, where the Hamas keeps ingredients to build rockets.
I don't get it. Why don't they bomb that?
So Ben-Gvir said that, but for the first time, Ben-Gvir said last night he's not satisfied with the Israeli response. If you fire a rocket into a population where regular innocent people live, and by the way, a woman was injured running to a shelter and is in the hospital.
Really?
She was hurt running to a shelter. That's a victim. That's a victim as well. You don't have to be hit between the eyes with a rocket in order to be considered a victim.
I mean, they're all victims. Anyone who lives in that region is a victim of terror. The kids who can't sleep at night because of the constant fear of terror attacks are victims.
So Ben-Gvir said he's not happy with the government's response, that there should be assassinations of Hamas leaders if a rocket is fired. Okay? Israel used to do that. They eliminated terrorist leaders. It's not a bad thing to do that. And I'm not advocating for that because I'm sitting in Cedarhurst. From a military strategic perspective, it's the right thing to do.
So why don't they do it?
Trump did it. Biden did it. Biden eliminated ISIS terrorists.
I don't think he realized what he did.
Oh no, now you're going off on a tangent.
No, but why don't they?
What?
Why don't they do that?
Because they're conflicted about what the right thing to do is. Because the newspapers call it extrajudicial killing. It means they didn't arrest them and put them in jail and have a judge say there's no bail and you have to have a trial and the jury has to convict them. And
this is why they call it the Middle East conflict. This is crazy because they can't even protect their own citizens.
When you eliminate a terrorist with a drone that goes into his bedroom and kills him, it's done. You don't have to worry about the trial. You don't have to worry about arresting him. You don't have to worry about sending soldiers in. People that indulge in terror, that aim to kill men, women, and children, have no place on this earth. And they don't need excuses or to have to answer to the United Nations about how they're doing it and what they're doing,
or the court of public opinion.
And one more thing: after the Neve Yaakov attack, Ben-Gvir said that he's going. It's like becoming the Ben-Gvir show.
Yeah.
But Ben-Gvir said that he's increasing the number of permits for pistols that are allowed in the population. And Aretz Sheva reported today that there's 17,000 people waiting for permits to be armed.
Wow.
17,000 people.
I'm guessing that's a lot of people.
Listen, I think in the Ir David situation, the same day, it was a civilian that was carrying a gun that
swift action
that knocked the guy out.
It really was.
That's you see kids, you see little kids don't even shave walking around Israel with submachine guns on their shoulder, on their back. I mean they're authorized to do that. They're in the
I think
military.
if every Jew that lives in Yerushalayim and in the old city is a target, if they're a target, then they should be armed to to basically protect themselves. If
Absolutely.
they feel comfortable, that is, like, I don't know. It's such a complicated conflict because tens of thousands of Jews go from America to Israel for Yom Tovim, and none of it. They don't see any of this. Like, they go and they're staying near the old city, and they're staying in Rechavia, and it's all hunky dory. It's all beautiful. And then you see these things on the news. You're like, what?
But listen. You know what? I remember when Malki and Dini were in seminary. In Israel. I don't know what it is. 22 years ago. Sometimes they would hear sirens. They would call me to ask me what happened, because in Israel somehow you don't feel it. In Israel, I mean, where something happens in one corner of the country, the buses are still running, the restaurants are still open, people still have to have their French fries and their falafel, and people are going to shul, and life goes on. Right. Here, to us here, Israel is under a microscope.
Yeah.
But there, you're living life.
Well, here's a story via the Times of Israel, and this is tragic. 2 people were killed Wednesday night when a car overturned on a Jerusalem street, then careened into a pedestrian, the Israel police said. A man who was 78 years old was a passenger in the car, and a woman 19 years old was walking along the street, were declared dead at the scene. Another woman who was 76 was driving the car. She was seriously injured. Both of the cars and the occupants were residents of the city. The accident happened on Azriel Hildesheimer Street in the German colony neighborhood. The narrow street is in some parts steeply inclined, and there was heavy rain on Wednesday night. Many roads in the area became shallow streams in these rainstorms. Now this tragedy hits close to home because a woman that was killed, a 19-year-old woman that was killed, is from the Five Towns. She's from West Hempstead.
Yeah. Near the Five Towns, but it's like an extension of the Five Towns. But as a local girl, the seminary was, I think I read Amudim is a seminary.
Amudim Seminary, and she was walking back to her dorm.
Is that where it is? I don't know where the seminary is. But listen, it's what can I tell you? It's a parent's worst nightmare.
Yeah, you send your kid to Israel.
But it was a car accident. And
yeah, I mean, it says that...
You're going to start second guessing? What are you going to do?
So initial police investigation found that the car was apparently traveling fast along the street for an unknown reason, hit a safety barrier. The car then overturned and continued to slide down the street, hitting the pedestrian. Listen, it's nothing short of tragic. And
listen, Israeli drivers, especially if you're elderly, they're not equipped to deal with this type of inclement weather, especially if it's cold and it gets a little icy. It becomes a big problem. Big problem there, and unfortunately, this is what happened. And there's a family in West Hempstead to send their kids to seminary, and have to deal with this now. And they should be comforted in their loss, and they should find the strength to carry on.
Amen. Hunter Biden.
Oh, geez, talk about 180-degree turns.
I mean, there's no turn that would be a good turn, but Hunter Biden finally admits the laptop is his.
Yeah, but now he's saying that the guy who's a repair shop it was in, violated his rights by using the information.
Great, awesome, but it's his.
Yeah, but so the guy he never picked up the laptop, and he never paid the guy for the.
Yeah, I don't know.
He never paid him. He wanted to find out whose laptop it was, so he had to go inside to find the information. Like someone finds your cell phone. What are they going to do? They're going to take an advertisement in the New York Times, found a cell phone in Times Square.
Why aren't the Democrats...
They're going to go on, they're going to look in your phone book for home, and they're going to call your home, and they say, hi, I found a cell phone. Is this your cell phone?
Well, this repair shop guy really hit the jackpot, no?
Well, listen, he, two things about John Mac Isaac is the guy's name. He wrote a book about it already.
No way.
Yes, way. And he had to find out whose laptop it was. The guy had a laptop, a computer repair shop somewhere in Delaware.
He's not working for the CIA.
He didn't have a $361 million contract with the New York Mets or the New York Yankees. He was a hardworking guy. The guy brought him a laptop. He wanted to see whose it was because it was there for months. It wasn't picked up. And he went and he saw all the stuff. He turned it over to the FBI. He did the right thing.
And then the story was sort of suppressed.
He also made a copy of everything that was in there before he turned it over to the FBI and turned the copy over to Rudy Giuliani.
Hunter Biden's lawyers are demanding Fox News to correct some of its coverage about the president's son or face a defamation lawsuit. According to the Washington Post, the lawyers also are sent threatening letters to individuals, including Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani. Biden became the subject of continuous coverage in conservative media after his infamous laptop was left at a Delaware repair store in 2019. And John Paul Mac Isaac, John Paul Mac Isaac. What were his parents thinking? What's his last name? Mac Isaac or Isaac?
You should have called him John Paul George Ringo.
Call him JPM.
JPM.
John Paul Mac Isaac. That's four first names.
Maybe his last name is Mac Isaac.
No, it's separate. It's Mac Isaac.
Maybe he's Jewish. No, it's not Mac Isaac. Someone said the other day I heard someone say, "Oh, the anti-Semites think that the Titanic was sunk by the Jews by someone named Iceberg."
That's not funny.
That's not funny?
I think it
was a long time ago. 100 years ago. You can laugh about it now. It's unfortunate, but it's funny.
So John Paul Mac Isaac made copies.
Oh, now you got it? You just got it now?
John Paul Mac Isaac made copies of the hard drive, which contained information about Biden's business dealings, as well as controversial photos and videos of Biden. The hard drive was later sent to Giuliani. Yeah, so I don't know why it's even like. Imagine having the nerve to sue for defamation after you were caught. Like,
1 second. Actually, the story's bigger than that. You got to back up. During the campaign between Biden and Trump, Biden said on the debate stage that 51 intelligence officers said this is Russian disinformation. His entire laptop is a plant by the Russians.
Your blood pressure just like spiked.
Don't worry about my blood pressure. My blood pressure is good.
Is it?
I have I suffer from low blood pressure.
Like what? Like what's the numbers?
I don't know. It's right on target.
120 over 80?
120 over 70 usually.
That's pretty solid.
No, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
If you pay the doctor a couple $1 extra, he even lower it for you a little bit.
Oh, he wants okay.
Even extra $20.
So I guess it wasn't Russian. I guess it wasn't Russian disinformation. I saw a stat yesterday, by the way.
But you have to, now that it's a couple of years later, if you pick apart what they said in the letter, and now they're picking it apart on CNN and other liberal networks like MSNBC. The letter said it has the earmarks of Russian disinformation. They didn't say it's Russian disinformation. It has the earmarks. It looks like Russian disinformation.
Speaking of Russians, I saw a stat yesterday that 188,000 soldiers of the Russian army were either killed or injured in this war with Ukraine.
I think I also read there's 500,000 Russian soldiers getting ready on the border of the Ukraine.
This thing is still going on.
Listen, Donald Trump says that if he was president, there wouldn't have been a war like this.
Yeah, well, I would have called Vladimir and I'd tell you, Vladimir, I'll push the big red button, Vladimir.
No, like listen, I don't know. Maybe someone like Putin or Xi in China, maybe they're afraid of Trump.
Well, let me ask you a question. I saw that Rabbi Baruch Lazar met with Vladimir Putin recently, the Chabad Shliach of Moscow, the chief rabbi of Moscow.
They're very close, apparently.
Very close.
Yeah,
it's kind of being. It's like being close to Dr. Doomstein. Like
no, but he's a facilitator of the growth of Judaism in Russia. So he's been very friendly to the Jewish people, and very facilitating of the expansion of.
Is Vladimir Putin considered like a dictator?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, and he's involved in a war that is unnecessary and pretty offensive.
Well, he's supposed to. The story is he's supposed to be very ill.
I know, but I'm just saying, like,
he's supposed to have cancer. He's supposed to have Parkinson's disease.
That's what he's supposed to.
That's what they report, but you get conflicting reports.
So I guess Baruch Lazar would know.
I don't know. I don't think he wants to talk about Putin.
I don't think he can talk about
that. He's talking about him.
That's probably the scariest thing. To be in his shoes.
In Putin's shoes or Lazar's shoes?
Putin's shoes, I don't know. In Rabbi Lazar's shoes. Like, that's a scary position to be in.
Listen, he's a shliach of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he's carrying out a shlichus.
Where was he born? Is he Russian?
He's from Brooklyn.
He's from Brooklyn.
Yeah. He's related to the Lazar family here in the Five Towns.
He'd either be dealing with alternate side parking or meeting with one of the biggest, nastiest dictators in the world.
If he was still in Brooklyn, he would be worried about whether it's going to be any snow this winter. I guess he only has to worry about.
Isn't it crazy
rockets.
how a Chabad shliach, a rabbi, is involved in the crosshairs of this war between Russia and Ukraine?
You know, one of the great things about what's his name, Jeff Bezos. Bezos and his rocket ship.
There's something about people from your generation that they pronounce names completely.
You know, I don't think you want to get into a discussion about pronouncing words.
Why not?
I don't think you're exactly the guy that should be discussing how words get pronounced.
Bezos? Okay? Yeah, so what did Bezos say?
A name is a name, you know?
Yeah, okay.
People,
John Paul Mac Isaac, yeah, go on.
People have gone up to, people go up in his rocket ships, you know? What do they call it?
A rocket ship?
Yeah, the Bezos project.
Are you talking about Musk?
Oh, no, it's Bezos.
Bezos has a rocket ship, or Musk has a space. Musk has
Bezos definitely has a program that sends up rocket ships to the moon.
No, that's Musk.
That's Musk.
You want to fact check?
Oh no, I think you're
SpaceX.
I think you're right, but Bezos went up in one of its rocket ships.
It's
Jeff Bezos went up in one of its
it's
rocket
Bezos,
ships.
Abba. Bezos.
Jeff Bezos. You know him personally? You know how to pronounce his name? You know, every time you call me, it says Nachi is calling. No one ever says on my phone doesn't say Nachi.
That's also a
calling.
U generation thing. When I get a phone call, that my phone doesn't say Abba is calling. Your phone says Nachi Gordon is calling. How do you?
I guess the voice though, the little person stuck inside the phone there, only knows how to pronounce certain words.
Does that work for AARP members?
I think it's the only person. I think it's the same person that's in the.
Is AARP?
Waze.
What is AARP?
Only person in Waze. Also, I think it's the same person in the Apple phones.
So Musk sends people to the moon.
And Bezos went up, one of the first ones.
Really?
And he went from up there. You go up 5 miles into the air or more, 5 miles or more.
I have no idea.
I don't know how many miles they go up. They see the Earth, and it looks like a bowling ball.
No, I saw a video of a guy who's breaking the world record. He was, I guess, part of the Red Bull team, right? And he was jumping from
part of what?
Red Bull. You know, Red Bull does all these. They do these stunts.
Okay.
And he was jumping from space to Earth.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be the first human to break through the sound barrier.
Did he make it?
He made it. He lived. But so they had this video, and it took him quite a while to fall. So he's in space, it's black, and he sees the Earth, and he's on a ledge, and he tips over and he falls. And he's breathing on his own oxygen inside his spacesuit, and he starts spinning. And the concern was, and there's a whole center. There's on Houston. There's a whole center trying to guide him down.
When was this?
I don't know, years ago, right? A couple years ago.
This was a dream you had, or
no? I saw this.
Really happened.
I saw this video.
You saw it too?
So
jumped from outer space.
He jumped from outer space, and he broke through the sound barrier, and you heard it, he broke the.
But there's no gravity. There's no gravity up there. Was he wearing a motor?
He was wearing. Yeah, he was wearing a lot of stuff.
So he had a motor. He was motorized.
It wasn't a motor. Should I show you the video?
Yeah, you can show me.
I'll show you the video. Anyways, he's falling, and then all of a sudden he starts spinning. And there's no way to prepare for this, but the concern is that he's spinning so fast. The only way he could possibly die is if the blood exits his body through his eyes. And if he's spinning fast enough, that potentially could happen. So he needed to do something to stop spinning. He's putting his arms out, and ultimately he did something that made him stabilize. He broke through the sound barrier, and then now the sky is blue and the sun is out, and he's onto Earth, and he lifts his mask. He's breathing the oxygen, and he made it. And I for the life of me cannot understand how I can't get on I'd be woozy over here on the 3rd floor of this building looking down, and this.
Well, you have to practice, I guess. You got to practice. You know, what does that do with Beryl Lazar? Oh, you want to know about how you want to know how Chabad Shliach has how they have this influence and this power.
No, so
world.
This was Beryl Lazar. Beryl Lazar jumped from the space.
What?
I'm kidding.
Are you kidding me? I don't know. Let me see what other stories I have. I sent you a lot of stories this morning.
We're winding down.
Okay, we're winding down already. Let me see if I sent you anything interesting, anything good. Anyway, okay.
Parshas Beshalach, the Shira.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's your bar mitzvah
14
Parsha.
years ago. 15 years
14?
ago.
15, no?
Vayihi Beshalach Paro.
Well, this is a turning point. It's a turning point.
We were in the Tzemach Tzedek shul.
That's right.
It was a 10 o'clock davening, 10:30 davening.
Very beautiful. You had a beautiful kiddush.
I did lane well, didn't I?
Yes, you laid very well. You lane the Shabbos?
Nope.
No? Well, you forgot the Parsha already? Don't you practice?
I probably know the first Aliyah and I know the Shira.
You know the Shira?
I know the Shira.
It's a different trup. The Shira.
Yashir Moshe.
Different trup, completely.
B'nai Yisrael. Shira. Yossi Sanaluk was my.
Well, you should stay. You should try to remember it.
What was your bar mitzvah parsha?
Veschanan.
Do you know how to lane it?
A good part of it. I don't know.
Veschanan is very short.
No, it's not so short. There's, I think Shlishi to Revi is like forever, or maybe Sheni to Shlishi.
I remember laning and then I just Mamba out. I left.
You were relieved. You were relieved after.
Oh
that?
My goodness! Yeah.
Anyway, in this week's parsha, the Bnei Yisrael leave Mitzrayim.
Yeah.
They're on the beach, on the Yam Suf, and the Egyptians are chasing them. Right.
Yeah.
And what does it say in the Chumash? It says they yelled, they screamed out by Yitzaku El Hashem. They screamed out. They screamed out to God. And so the question is, God tells them they're leaving Mitzrayim. He told them they're going to go to Har Sinai and get the Torah, and they're going to go into Eretz Yisrael. And Hashem said that. Okay, Hashem does not keep his promises. What were they screaming out to Hashem? If he already told them they're going,
right?
So if they thought he changed his mind and they weren't going, then what are they calling out to him for? He's the guy that they suspect possibly that he's not going to fulfill his promise to them to go into Sinai and go to Har Sinai and get the Torah and go into Eretz Yisrael. So it says in the Parsha that they called out to Hashem. What they call out to him for? Either they trust him, or they trust in him, or not. So Rashi says, really, of course they trusted in Hashem. They knew that they're going to cross. They're going to be able to cross the sea one way or another somehow. They knew they're going to go to Har Sinai and get the Torah because Hashem said. They knew they're going to go into Eretz Yisrael eventually, even though it was 40 years later after the Chet HaMeraglim and so on and so forth. So what were they doing? Rashi says, Umanas Shalavaisam. That this is what Jews do. A Jew davens. A Jew davens. Whatever the situation is. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be in an emergency situation. A Jew davens. Shachar Mincha Marav. You daven. That's the focus of your day. That's the focus of your day. I think I told you the story here many times. Not at least one time in the past. There's an old chassid, Mendel Futterfass. Did I tell you about him?
Yeah.
He was teaching Torah underground in the old Soviet Union. And he was arrested and exiled to Siberia. And they blindfolded him and put him on a train. And for 36 hours, he was on a train nonstop to go to Siberia. So when he finally got out of the Soviet Union and he came to America and he came to Settleton Crown Heights, he was the brother of Hendel Lieberman, a great artist. And
brother?
Yeah.
They're different names.
Use different names for whatever reason. They said to him, after 36 hours blindfolded on the train, the train finally stopped and you got out of the train. What did you do? He said, well, I took off the blindfold. I looked outside. Looked like it was time for mincha, so I davened mincha. Okay, that's what a Jew does.
Yeah.
A Jew davens. So we daven shachos already today. And
beautiful.
Mincha will be around 6 o'clock, right?
Or 1:30. I think earlier than 6.
5 o'clock.
You're a real chassid. You're davening at 6 o'clock mincha.
You can still daven 6 o'clock in
maybe
Borough Park.
Maybe. Anyways, you can daven shachos at 6 o'clock work. Anyways, that is our last episode for the week. This is the Daily Thread. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast. If you have any feedback, leave us an email, thedailythread@meaningfulmoney.org, and we will see you next week.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.